it's like, this is what we're showing you. We don't have the ability to upload from the computer, for instance. You can't burn things onto a disk, so things take more time. There's a lot of like technical issues, and I didn't know that we had.
See, I thought I got some email at some point that said you can actually just send your program in over if you have it.
Yeah, nobody will help me on that either.
If you're at home and you have your own,
Right.
quick cable as well.
But see,
at
you
home
should
to
be able to
do
do that on the internet,
on their computer.
on their computer.
Because that's also a whole time issue too. The technology is there, but they don't have it, and when things go wrong, I mean, I've had even a lot of shows where the sound is less, and I know I didn't produce it out
The
that
sound
way.
is,
And I've made complaints, like I know when I print this, that the sound was the 12 dB, it's supposed to never pass 6 dB, and it went out fine. Why is all the sound lowered?
yeah.
And I got an answer for that.
What's the answer?
Well, the answer was they turn it up or down according to maybe another show, and they don't have to check it for every 15 minutes, and maybe it was down when your show came
But see,
on.
that is so easy to fix, actually.
Right.
Did anybody know Michael Eisenmaker? Because he was working there on the technology
I don't buy it though.
many years ago. You know him. Because he just started he's now the director of the Marin County Public Access in California. And I told him about that problem because I noticed that with Democracy Now! Sometimes the sound would be way lower, and sometimes it would come up. And especially when Laura Flanders' show was on, it would just go sky high. And I said, well, I talked directly to Dan. I said, what's going on? And he said, oh, well, they have different levels. And I said, well, there must be some equipment that you could get that would even out those levels. And so Michael Eisminger said, yeah, it costs $13. And he gave me the number and everything. And I said, so I sent an email to Dan and said, look, I understand you could put this, you just put it right before it goes up to the transmitter. It's like one, I don't know what kind of gate it would be, but it would even out the sound. It's an auto leveler. And but I noticed that it did get better then. I don't know if was this happened recently? Did this happen to you with the sound?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost every show. I finally got, the person who's in the control room, who's the head, Hector said that he'll just tell that person not to even touch my sound. Last week's show worked out. I don't know how it's gonna, I don't know which end it happens, M&N side or the cable side.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that when you put so much work into a show, and you're very, some of us are very serious about the things that we do, and we want to make it a great production, a great message. We have ideas for the future for it. You're just kind of held, you're put up, becomes lesser quality when it's shown than what you make. Things go wrong that make the whole show lesser quality that don't have to be. There's a division going on there, and I think we all also want to, we want the freedom of speech. We want it to be, we like the idea of public access in terms that we're speaking to the community speaking to us, we're part of the community, we're bringing that out, community interaction there. And I think most people at M&N like that part of being at M&N, that we are a public access community-oriented show.
Right.
And but there's something where we're sort of being kept back from being professional enough.
Well, I mean, it's sad. I think if I was Dan, I would say that the staff should come to the Producers Association meetings, and just so they can get to know the producers, and so they're not in always this kind of stressed out mode of trying to get the show on the air, that they could sit and listen to some of the discussion about what's going on with their show.
By the way, there's an unfortunate history of suspensions and expulsions there. Now, if they followed your suggestion of having a facilitator present on the facility, some of these unfortunate situations may not have occurred. But some of my best friends, like Frank Craven and so on, and Joe Barton,
So they got
been
suspended, so they can't
have
come.
been suspended. If there was a facility, if there was a facilitator on the premises, he could add to some stability and some guidance to avoid these very unfortunate and deplorable situations.
Yeah.
Because there shouldn't be anyone suspended there, because they are all trying desperately to reach and communicate with their peers and their brothers and sisters. So for someone like Frank Craven to have been suspended is really outrageous.
Uh-huh. Well, what was the excuse, you know?
I think he violated some rules.
Yeah.
Some rules. It's
Because
always,
actually, last time I was here, people were talking about that there's a double standard, that the commercial people can violate all kinds of rules, and that the community producers get kicked out if they go over like 2 minutes or something like that.
and Joe Barton tried to alleviate somebody's pain and suffering when he was being interviewed. For him to be kicked out for that reason is totally unconscionable.
I had a medical marijuana man in a wheelchair, and after 5 grueling shows, I mean, he was a hero, and he was shaking so much, so he had a few puffs of marijuana, and just all hell broke loose when that was discovered. And 1 year suspension, and, you know, it's just important to know what the protocol is, you know.
Yeah.
Who is making these decisions? I think then it got to be so many months, then they were worried about the liability, because as we started to learn more law, is that really the role of M&N to be the police? Or is the role of free speech? So it gets tricky, but you know, we're learning as we go along, and we're all good-hearted people who are, it's all a labor of love. We couldn't be held accountable for having a hidden agenda. It's so obvious we don't have a hidden agenda.
Yeah.
And that's why people listen to us, they trust us, they count on us. Even throughout the world, as YouTube was shutting me down in America, I found through people who were traveling, because I have sort of a New Age background, that in the traveling, I was a big star abroad. Even though in America, somehow, I don't know what YouTube does, I was restricted.
Well, just to go for a minute to what you were questioning about whether there was something secret going on or whatever. I just want to say that one of the ways to make things better, I think, is to be much more transparent. And there was, according to one of the board members, there was a retreat when which was held last spring, a year ago, where the board members went on a retreat to decide what the next 5-year plan would be or whatever, once they got the franchise. And apparently they drafted a lot of documents, they spent a lot of time writing it and arguing about which way the organization should go. But there was no, why don't we know that? Why don't they put that up on the website? If they made a plan, and why can't they should publish it so that the public could respond to it, could have some reaction to it, and maybe other suggestions, so that one of the things I think we need to ask for is that there be, that we have much more transparency. And if there is, I think it was called the strategic plan, and that they should publish the strategic plan so that we could respond to it, the producers, but also the general public, that should be available on the website, and that there could be comments about it, etc. But it's not, it hasn't even been published to the board members themselves. It was something they spent a lot of time at, and yet it's kind of disappeared, but it seems only it's something that they are going. Now, one of the things I was told is in that is that they're supposed to move to 12 channels, because that's part of the new franchise, that they will be getting more channels. And that's one reason I think they want to have one of the channels be the C-SPAN channel, but the Manhattan C-SPAN channel or something. But see, that's a problem, because then all that the staff time and the equipment goes to doing that new entity rather than helping improve the channels that they have already. I think what is the implementation of this? If they are going to expand to other channels, first let's look at what the situation is now. Are there enough facilitators? Is there enough education? Is there enough? Like you said, you've had a long time, a long wait.
9 months.
To get
The studio track.
the studio, and Paper Tiger had the same thing. They
Yeah,
had
but most
some
people were on a
that-
month. When I asked everybody who was in their classes before me, and I saw them come in after me and got in, I said, how long did it take you to get in? And I saw them come in after me. They were like on the waiting list a month. But I mean, also everything you're explaining, it's not, I wouldn't know any of this if it wasn't from you, because you're representing that they have a certain amount of money, a certain amount of budget. And when I go in, it's like, this jack is not working because it's 10 years old and it's old. That things aren't, we don't have anything up to par.
But we have to be very careful,
Sure.
because one of the problems that I'm afraid of is they're talking about making everything be HD.
Right.
And then all the old tapes that you have, maybe they won't let them be played. Maybe they'll say, we can't play this because it's not HD. They're also talking about moving up to Final Cut 10. Now, everyone
I wish
talked
they
to,
would, but they're actually not.
no, but I heard Final Cut 10 is terrible.
The people are saying that didn't test it out. I mean, when I talk to all the facilitators who talk about it, they've never even worked with it. Whereas I did take a workshop at Apple, they give it to you for free,
Uh-huh.
you get like 4 to 6 classes, and they haven't tested it out. The facilitators who talk about, they've read reviews that attack it. There's certain politics about why it's being attacked. But first of all, Final Cut Pro 10 is $299 with a free trial of 1 month. I mean, but I'm saying that would make more people be able to afford it. Even if they had one station that supported it, that can come in with their computers.
Right, what
and
I
use
think
it.
is that they've got to have multiple stations
Right.
that have different
Different things.
access, because people aren't, who've
Yeah.
learned, what I heard is that
But
it's
I'm
a
not gonna-
whole new basis.
Right. What am I
Like,
gonna-
you can't go, it's not like Final Cut 10 is the step
No,
up
it
above
isn't,
Final Cut 7. It's
7
something,
is
it's more like
$1,200.
home, like iMovie. It's
So
not-
7 is $700, it has major problems, so I'm gonna invest in, I'm sorry, it's $1,200, so I'm gonna invest in $1,200 when the rest of the market out there is not using it. For them to support me, no, but a $300, a lot of people can afford,
Right.
but they have no way of supporting it. So even when they do go to HD, they have problems, the control room equipment doesn't work, that there's, the infrastructure of the system doesn't work, so you can't really upgrade on all this other stuff if you don't have the infrastructure to begin
See,
with.
that's what, I mean,
So when
I
I
think
hear
it's
things-
gonna be a big, I mean, that, first of all, it's a huge expense when they go, if they change really to HD. They, just like you said, absolutely. they can't just change one machine.
No.
They have to change all the monitors. They have to
The
change
infrastructure
all
behind the
of
engineering stuff, the behind it. They have a whole
everything.
server that runs
Everything.
that, that's a different
Everything.
server.
It's very complicated, but, you know, it's not impossible. Maybe what they should do is have one HD studio and one regular studio, rather than just everything go to HD, because I think if you have a tape that's not HD and you're trying to play it, if you want to have a roll-in, and it won't be compatible.
And they're very expensive, the whole HD.
Yes, they're much more, and it uses up, the worst thing is that it uses up so many gigabytes on the hard drives when you try to edit, because when you're due with a regular, mini DV, it's, say, a half-hour program might take, I don't know how many gigabytes, 9 gigabytes, something like that. An HD, that's going to be 30. It's, it's not just twice as much, it's more. So that's going to be 30, you're going to need 30 gigabytes on your hard drive to just even put it down before you start working with it, before you put other pictures in and stuff.
I have a question.
Yeah,
Who votes for the board of directors?
the board itself. So,
Really?
yeah.
Is that what it
It's-
says in the charter?
Well, it's interesting, because when I talked to Diana, who was one of the people that, who kind of helped to frame the, did you want to say something, by the way, Sarah, before you leave? Do you want to
No,
put in your 2 cents?
no.
Isn't she nice? She includes
Beautiful.
everyone.
She really has
Yeah.
an omnipresence, it's great.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you for coming, Brittany.
Could you, we should go out, just ask people to be a little more quiet when taping, I don't know if it's here or outside, or just maybe let them know. I would do it, but I
Here, I'll
can't
do
do
it.
steps. Thank you.
Now, what was it you were asking me?
Well, first of all, I want to say again, what an honor it is to hear this kind of, start with the sheet on the wall, and,
Yeah.
I mean, that's India, that's
Yeah.
China. And then go to this level of tactical and operational, and strategic and political thinking. And I think, it really is essential to find out how to get that board at full capacity with
Yeah,
broad spectrum representation, and if we do nothing else, I'm not a public access producer, I'm looking at things from the vantage point of the United Nations and their need for C-SPAN
oh,
and the UN,
absolutely,
which is
yes.
how I cross over with Harold
Yeah.
over the years. So, that question about, okay, what's the
Okay,
strategic
well-
path, is it in the charter about how you get
Yes.
people onto the board?
Well, here's what I learned from Diana, she and Bob Devine, he's one of the real fathers of public access, a very wonderful man who was president of Antioch College for a while. And and I talked to them both, and they said their original plan, and I'm not sure it's still in the bylaws, but there was a kind of understanding that, first of all, that the board, that would have 19 members, that there would be a representation of as many different diverse ethnic groups as the same as the city, proportionately. So, and that there would also be some diversity geographic, so it wasn't all people from the Upper East Side or the Upper West Side, that there would be people from Chinatown and people from Harlem, and that the board would be made up of, that was written down. But also then they also said they had a kind of wish list, that there would be a teacher, someone who taught in the public schools. It could be high school or elementary school. That there should be a representation from the unions, that there would be somebody who is active, a union member. That there should be somebody, that there should be at least 2. And she said in the early days there were 4 producers who worked who were using the studio. That was very important to have representatives of the users be there. And then what else? There was a couple more, but I'm forgetting them. Somebody from a social worker? No.
Right.
That there would be people.
Human rights lawyer,
Yeah, exactly. There was that there would be, absolutely.
First Amendment rights lawyer.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
So that was the idea. There was a kind of wish list that was put out. And that this would be what you would look at when you were assessing whether someone should be on the board. It isn't like, oh, my friend wants to be on the board, let's
Right.
put them on, you know.
So even if that original wish list no longer exists, certainly another one could be generated.
Exactly.
And it has to then be integrated with the bylaws as they exist,
Yes,
and the board, whatever charter, and, you know,
absolutely.
I love your thinking about there is this extant documents that are registered with the state, and then whatever this relationship with the Stringer's office, seems to me between now and June, it's just really important to hammer down on these pieces of the puzzle.
Absolutely, yes.
You know, have a group that are directly related to this.
Yes.
I'm interested.
Great,
I followed this because of 20-year relationship with Harold,
yeah.
my disability.
Actually, one of the people she said should always be someone who's disabled
Uh-huh,
on
right.
the board. That was one of the other criteria,
Right.
you know. And of course, Nan is disabled. I don't know if you know her,
No.
but she has MS and she's on the board.
So
And
then-
but she said they had, some of the board meetings, they had in an office that she couldn't have access to.
well, in
because it
China,
was
you
up
go
the
in
stairs.
a wheelchair, and they literally pick the wheelchair up and take you up the steps,
Yeah.
or they have someone carry you up, so people power. But
Yeah.
so that's, you know, it's all pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah.
So the other, are you based in New York or in California?
No, I'm here. I taught for 17 years at the University of California,
Right.
but I never gave up my New York. I was only 2/3 time, so I would spend 6 months. They were on the quarter system, 3 months each quarter, and I would do 2 quarters a year, and then I would come
Which
back to
campus?
New York.
Which campus?
San Diego, UC San Diego.
So my other question was.
And I taught studio production.
Right.
That was what I taught.
So at one point, there was at least an ad hoc network that a colleague that I worked with, who we deal a lot with the nuclear era issues.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, Fukushima's blowing in and, you know, shutting down Indian Point and the other 4 nuclear power plants in which we sit in the crosshairs and so on is something I track on and how much that gets shut out. You know, Rachel Maddow does a little, but doesn't get talked about. So, but there was a mechanism by which you could produce something here and then bicycle it out to other public access entities and then publish.
Yeah.
So I just wondered if you know whether there's anything, any vestige of that, or you have to reassemble it all over again, or?
Well, there's Deep Dish TV, that's what we did. We
Right.
would put package stuff,
Right.
not just from New York, but from other
Sure.
places around different issues.
Right.
And Deep Dish is still there, but they've mostly been stalled doing some things about Palestine, so it's taken a long time. But that's always possible, especially with the internet now. You can, and the sad thing is that really was what was supposed to happen with the youth channel. And in fact, the youth channel was really supposed to be not just the youth in New York, but Minneapolis was involved and a place in California, I'm not sure where, and also Indiana, there was one station there. So there were different places where they had, and so that they would show that though everywhere that they participated, they would also show the youth channel there. It wasn't a whole channel, but it was like a block of programming, 4 or 5 hours and every week, I think. And they would put that on in Minneapolis so that the kids in New York got to see what the kids in Minneapolis were making and vice versa. And so that was a wonderful program, and in fact, there were 13 staff members, and they got funds from different foundations. They got funds from the Ford Foundation and Rockefeller and MacArthur Foundations to do that. And unfortunately, it's just been decimated. There's no more youth channel right now at all.
So what is
They're
the
playing
main-
reruns, I guess.
Well, it's an important linkage. I mean, the UN is putting huge emphasis on engaging more youth. There should be some crossover and so on.
Well, I have this book, I don't know, you should look at it, we could, this shows you different community media projects around the world. That's what I'm working on myself right now.
That's what was my next question. What is your main 1 or 2 or 3
Yeah,
goals?
and it's called, there's a map. Unfortunately, I didn't bring my postcards with it, but it's Deep Dish Waves of Change. It's all one word, no periods. deepdishwavesofchange.org. And there's a map of the world, and you can click on, like India, you can get community videos that are made by a great group of women in India who are doing stuff around GM product, like agriculture, Monsanto.
Does Deep Dish, or you interact with Mosaic and Kim Spencer, is that still operational?
Kim spent, Link TV, we started, I mean, that was really, the lobbying we did to get the nonprofit channel on the satellite enabled Link TV and Free Speech TV. So I haven't been working, but right now, to tell you the truth, it's like web is where it's active in terms of international exchange. But a lot of people around the world who are doing community media really love our map and use it. We've had people from 147 countries actually go to the website, and it's amazing. And also there's a blog about different events that happen, and we really also pay attention to the policy. So, for example, Chile passed a law to promote community media in Chile. India just passed a very important law about community radio, and there's more community radios opening up in India. And in fact, these women, we have a beautiful video. It's called the Khan Development Society. It's in Andhra Pradesh, actually. Maggie was talking about Andhra Pradesh. These women are amazing, and they have been doing video for 24 years. And they've been wanting to do a radio station, and they have been doing radio, but it's been just on the internet. But now they've just got a license, and they have built an antenna, and they are broadcasting to their neighbors. And there's wonderful pictures of them and all kinds of information about their project. But there's community media is like the hottest subject. It's like, people are realizing that they can do it and that they have.
Is
Well,
it
and-
costly?
but- and
The
linking-
community radio is costly to establish?
Not at all. I mean, now it depends, what costs is the electricity if you want to amplify it and have it go many hundreds of miles, but if you're just doing local radio, you can do it for, I don't know, $500,
Yes,
You should go to Prometheus, is a wonderful group that's, it's called Prometheus.org. Prometheus Radio, I think, .org.
What is the spelling?
Prometheus. US. If you Google Prometheus and radio, they have a wonderful web page, and they have helped different groups around the world build antennas
I see.
and set up their whole radio station.
I heard from this.
And they do it, let me just say, there's a wonderful story, because they believe that when you build a radio station, that as many people should be involved as possible in the actual building. It shouldn't be that somebody come in from the outside and do all the work and then turn it on. And I went to one of their, what they called barn raising, because that's a tradition that started with the Amish, where people would get together to help people as a community project to build someone's barn. And you need a lot of people to lift it up, and so they would get all the neighbors together. And so this barn raising I went to was in Northampton, and when they put up the antenna, they had like 30 people hold it and raise it up like Iwo Jima, the flag of Iwo Jima, the sculpture. Because they said as many people who feel that they're part of raising it up, that's their radio station. They also had people make their own cables. They didn't buy any cables, they bought the wires and the adapters, and they had them learn to solder and make their own cables, and I have pictures of that. But it's wonderful, and they have done that on over 100 stations around the world, in Africa, in Nepal, in different places, and very
That's Prometheus.
Prometheus radio, you know. But a lot in the United States, particularly on native, indigenous radio stations. They've helped start radio stations in the Navajo and different.
So they do it for the whole world?
They do
When they're teaching.
Yeah, but no, they go and help. They teach people. They help you build the antenna, the whole thing. There's some. If you go to the, let's see, what country is it? If you go to Africa, they were 2 or 3 stations in Africa they helped to start, and it's on my map. If you click on that,
How to know what is how many public access television and radio station there in Taiwan, Korea, this area?
Well, you know, the problem, there was the most active of the East Asian areas was Korea. But they changed the government, and the right-wing government that came in now is really decimated the community media. I mean, it's really interesting how threatened they feel and about everything. I was in Korea at the height of the more progressive government there was really trying to make friends with North Korea. And in fact, they were building a railroad line that would go from North Korea to South. And I went on a tour. I went to the railroad station, and they were painting murals of doves of peace and handshaking, and the whole thing was friendship and stuff. And I just talked to my friend from Korea. He said they painted over all that. They're making it's now.
So there is nothing like a public radio station.
But they had a radio station. They had a channel on the cable, but they also had a broadcast channel. They had a satellite channel. All of that got shut down in Korea.
So what is your day like? Do you have a staff? Are you just writing and researching?
I'm writing and researching, but I was working with 2 wonderful young women, Nicole and Eva, and they both had worked at community radio stations in Latin America, actually. And actually, it's they're in this mountainous area. And the radio, it's a radio, it was totally serendipitous that they both ended up working for me. And they didn't know each other, and they didn't know that they had the same background. They had both worked at this little radio station called Radio Victoria in El Salvador. And that station, one was there for over a year, and one was there for like 6 weeks, but they used the station. You talk about communication. They use the station to find their children. My daughter was at a party, and do you know where she is? Did she spend the night up in in somebody else's village or whatever? Or somebody, they use it like, oh, my chickens died. Are your chickens sick? Also, it's like the most basic, simple kind of communication at this little radio station, Radio Victoria. They just celebrated their 30th anniversary. They've been going for 30 years in El Salvador.
So what else?
But anyway, I'm working with them, but we ran out of funds. We're still trying to get more funding. So we applied to the Tribeca Film Institute to get, they have a new media thing, to really make our map better. We have this map, but right now it's a Google map, and we don't want to do it through Google because I don't trust Google, and Google is a big corporation, and it's a proprietary map. And if you ever sign on to these things, they own you. They own all your, whatever creative thing you put on their site. That's why you want to have free and open source software. Right? And actually there's a great group in Africa that's on my map. It's in Namibia, and it's called SchoolNet, and they're an organization of school teachers who are trying to promote free and open source software so that people don't get ripped off by Microsoft. Because one of the bad things that's happening is that Microsoft comes in the third world and sells them all this old equipment that's out of date, that's not fast enough to go on the internet or anything. And in software, expensive software that they have to buy and they have to upgrade all the time, and they're like, they're really getting ripped off. So this group, and they make these comic books, and it's really funny because like the Joker in Batman, well, the evil guy in this comic book is the Microsoft salesman. He comes in a big truck and it has dollars all over it, and he has these old computers with cracked screens and stuff that he's selling to the schools and making them buy it and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to bring up 2 points on the possibility of spreading democracy. First of all, the People's Radio Network is quite progressive under Gary Null. Yes, people like Denny Schechter and Webster Tarplay and Carl Pearson come in and broadcast.
You
I've
mean
been
at
listening
WPAI?
to People's Radio Network, which is on 83rd Street.
Oh, really?
And then also 2600 Magazine has asked for people to apply as speakers for their conference this summer on Hackers of Planet Earth. And they're asking people who have any message on broadening democracy and the internet to sign up as speakers. You might want to sign up.
Well, I know those.
2600
Emmanuel
Magazine.
Goldstein.
Yeah, Emmanuel Goldstein.
Yeah.
Oh, you know him.
I knew him like
Yeah.
maybe 35 years ago.
Yeah. Well, he's asking for applicants. Paula could sign up, you could sign up, and address a few thousand hackers
Yeah.
on one of your visions of broadening democracy.
Yeah.
Like cameras in a courtroom without that.
How come there haven't been any lawsuits against Google by public access stations? Because their abuse of anti-monopoly laws is tremendous. And the harm of
Speak up,
restricting.
please.
I'm wondering why Google and YouTube and Facebook have not been challenged in court. It's horrifying. I have evidence on my site. I'm sure many other people do, that there's no oversight. Again, when I was putting up a cellular telephone station, which is just pretty much two people talking to each other, it's not talking about broadcasting a platform that then people grow to trust and depend and count on. When that is tampered with, the whole national security is threatened. You would think that the most savvy people would be coming up from the ranks of the people. You know, and it would take some cooperation.
I think people don't realize just how powerful Google is.
I know.
That's, you know, one of the problems. And people somehow, because it is so useful to be able to Google something. I mean, it's a verb now, right? It's like, I'm going to Google, you know, and it's sort of like Webster's dictionary before, I guess it takes the place of Webster's or something. It's something that you don't question.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Webster's, because I discovered Webster's dictionary started because the person wanted to make sure the words in the Constitution weren't changed. He wanted to establish what the meaning was. And if you see, say for example, the co-ops is a big issue I'm looking at in New York now. If you look in Black's Fifth Law Dictionary, proprietary lease is defined as something used in the New York co-op. So they're just creating their own words, which is dangerous. You know, people think they're getting one thing and a whole other thing is going on.
Yeah.
That's why the power of the public record is enormous.
Well, that's why we have to make a public record out of Manhattan Neighborhood Network and go to their board meeting and make sure that we hear.
Plan beforehand.
Yes.
Really work with
exactly.
you on
Absolutely.
these documentations, the relationship with the office. I mean, you should be talking to Quinn as well as Stringers, you know.
Yeah.
And the New York State office contact that you have, and put your slate together. You
Yeah.
gotta get word out to the producers.
Well, I'm saying what's your slate? I mean,
Right, I mean, well, and I'm saying you to the producers that are here,
Yeah,
that have
yeah.
some energy and that care.
yeah.
You know, I mean, I can't do this for my own reasons right now, but I think you've given us an incredible blueprint and, you know, leverage point of where things need to happen,
Yeah.
you know.
It
and-
seems so hopeless though if the board decides who's going to be on it. I mean,
Yeah,
But that's not within the
they're-
bylaws.
No, but
according to her.
they have to be more representative of the makeup of the city.
I
So-
mean, if you have to put
and-
together a class action suit just to wake them
Yeah.
up
Right.
Yeah.
and make them busy
Right.
with,
Well, see, I'm thinking of, I mean, the fact that they kicked us out when
Right.
that wasn't true, that there might be grounds for a suit.
and do you have that footage still, where she's saying?
Yeah, it's up on the web.
Right.
But my investigations into the banking fraud and the proprietary lease securitization, I think most board members don't know. They're really patsies, and I don't think they realize their liability. If you call it to their attention, then whoever is calling the shots behind them will have to support them more or shape up their act. But there's no question that Manhattan Neighborhood Network is looked at by all the world, and it's a great hope. When I was traveling in India for 4 years, and I would talk about it and say, you should get this going in India or in Kashmir, or if I was in Sri Lanka, and I didn't realize while I was gone upon what shaky ground it was back here.
So who do you think's behind the current board?
I don't see it as some kind of paranoid vision. I just feel that I think, you know, Dan worked at Pacifica. I think he's really, he's afraid of the rabble, you know, of letting, you know, and you know, I don't think the public access community is the same as the Pacifica community. I think in a way the public access community is more diverse in terms of political, you know, and that nobody, I think that the problem at BAI is there's a lot of sectarian kind of, you know, political forces that vie with each other. I don't think that happens in public access. And I think that he needs to relax and let it be more, shine more sunshine on it and let it be more democratic, and I think it'll be better for everyone, you know. I think he's closing ranks, kind of, you know, partly he got, because of it was so difficult getting the franchise, when I think it was, I think he did a good job in getting a good franchise. And also in building
But if
the,
we don't even know what the franchise is.
I know, that's the problem.
They're
They
handing
should-
out paperwork at the meeting that says 2007. So, you know.
No, that's
policy-
my pay.
No, I know this is yours. I'm saying,
Yeah.
just for example, you go to a meeting, you know, a new producers meeting, and you get policies that are 2007. That has nothing to do with the new
Yeah,
franchise.
but also it's not, and you weren't here when I said that one of the big problems is it's not in different languages, like the instructions and the forms that are, they should have forms, and like if you go to Somerville Community Access, it's online. You can get a form, you can print out a form in Creole, you know, you can print out a form and because they have a lot of Haitian producers, but there's Haitian producers at M&M. They should have some material for them, and they should have material in Spanish. You know, it's a kind of way of closing when you only have one language. And the basis, I mean, New York is an immigrant community, for Christ's sakes. We should have.
You know, but the problem with many languages is then you get many splinter groups too, when you need people to unite. Like when I traveled throughout the world, I found that when I traveled throughout the world, I found that I could go to internet cafes, and whether I was in Egypt or in India or in Sri Lanka or in Kashmir, the people working on the internet, it was usually English, but recently I found out how the Chinese figured out a way to make a keyboard work with all the characters, and it was brilliant. But it's important that people can, or maybe you can have translation devices so that you instantly can do it. But that's a really wonderful thing. Like to go live in Manhattan is something you can never do with 1 million channels on the internet. At any one moment, you have
Yeah.
the focus of a community.
Thank you.
Anyway,
Thank you
good
so
night.
much.
Thank you